Naraka sarani nyamaka siki. Happy Monday. Kora sarada baka sarani nyamaka. May you receive so many blessings and see the blessings this week. Sorada baka sarani nyamaka. Even the ones that are disguised as something else, completely different. Sorada baka sarani nyamaki. May you really tune in into what you are and who you are and what you came here to do. Sorada baka sarani nyamaka. And see yourself as a blessing as well. Soredabeka Saraninyameka for your story. Soredabeka Saraninyameka for our story. Soredabeka Saraninyameka for your truth. Soredabeka Saraninyameka for you. Saredake Anamake Siki, period, for you. Saredake Saraninyameka. Welcome everybody. Today feels like a really powerful day to talk about the clavicle. And let me show you something, because this is where the messages are coming so strongly about it, and it might actually give you like a really idea of what happens in your process and in the chest, and how you can really expand it even more, and how you can surrender to the expansiveness that you really are rather than shrinking. Yeah. So this past weekend, some of you might know that I'm taking this herbalism apprenticeship course, and I went to pick up some herbs this weekend, and I also picked up this wonderful deck, okay, that I've never seen it before, but my teacher there said like, hey, you work with energy, right? Would you like to see this deck? And it's called the Energy Archaeology, and it's dope. It's so good, you guys. Hi Peter, good morning or good evening to you. And so based on that, I've been really diving deeper into my bones and the energy of the bones and what they carry, and how we can actually use those energies and tune in into the wisdom of the bones, you guys. Like, this is why this kind of work is just like, it's a never-ending process. That's my baby coming in. It's a never-ending process. It's a learning experience, and the more open we are to learn, and the more open we are to say, like, I might have been very conscious at this moment, and at this moment I really wasn't, and having compassion for yourself for having quote unquote fucked up in some kind of way of another, but also owning that, you're owning the mistake, which really creates that opening within you. And this is where the clavicle comes in. So let me show you this card, okay? And we'll get all the messages come through, because I was just like, oh my gosh, these messages are like nonstop. So this part right here, right, which is like the area, the bone structure that actually attaches the arms into the chest area. So here, there's like so much invitation of just being open. If you have ever seen, or yourself included, when you feel like you want to protect yourself, you kind of go around in the shoulders, you protect the heart area, but also the shoulder blades are being pulled apart even more, to protect the heart as well, because there's a part of you that feels that it's not safe, So then the intelligence of your body, the intelligence of your being, based on a narrative that you have believed or a story, it says like, I'm going to protect myself because I love myself, right? So then there's the rounding of the shoulders. Then like the shoulder blades come in, and then you hug the heart in a form of survival in a way. And this is what creates so much tension, because the heart itself doesn't want to be, a little shrunk. It wants to be expansive. It wants to be open. So what happens in this moment, like, let's talk about the energy, yeah? Because this is what I really love. And the conditions and the awakening process, okay? So what happens here, and this is something, of course, if this has been going on, like, hi Rome, if this has been going on for a really long time, perhaps a kid, you just had like that thing, or like the anxiety around people or something, or just like sharing your truth, or just being you in general, and then you felt like people will just point at you and make fun of you, so then you would just shrink yourself, right? So if this has been a condition that is happening for so long in your life, it might feel that it's just normal, that you can't really, that it's part of you, right? But it's not really part of you. It's just like a story based on like what happened in the past. Okay, so here it is, that opportunity to really see, like, well, that's what I learned as a kid. You know, maybe you saw that with your parents, maybe you saw that with your siblings or other people around you. They were doing the same thing, and then you copy that, right? So as kids, again, you gotta remember that you are copying what you're seeing from others. Yeah. So here, you know, if that is like, especially when you are working or sitting and then you're like this, like, pay attention, right? Because there's a part of you that still says that you are not safe to really embrace the heart, to open up the heart. So then there's still a part of you that says, like, I gotta protect myself. I gotta protect myself. So what this happens, right? It activates that survival mechanism within us, within your system, yeah. And so then, like, the heart itself begins to use its own intelligence and intelligence of the physical body to create this, like, hugging sensation around it. And it's not in a way, yes, it's from love, right? Because it really does feel like you need to protect yourself, because the system, again, is very intelligent. But it's also happening from the part of you that doesn't really feel okay in being itself and expressing itself, again, based on whatever happened in your own story. So as that is happening, you know, then the love that is being expressed through the heart, the portal of the heart, in a way is being shut off, you know, a little bit, perhaps not all the way, because there's moments when, you know, when you feel like that and somebody comes in and it's like, can I give you a hug, or can you talk about it, right? So then that creates a little bit more opening, because then you go through, whether it's the tears or explaining what's going on, then it allows the body and the chest itself to open up and release. So there's no so much tension. So now when there is a tension and you're closing in, you're not allowing life force energy to pass through you. So again, the portal of the heart begins to kind of go like this, you know? It's just like, closes up a little and then opens up, and it's kind of like, where do I stay? Can I stay open? Oh my god, that's so freaking scary. Maybe I'm just gonna close it off completely, you know? So then at times, if you have ever felt like, okay, I think I can open up, and then you're like, good, and then something happens based on, like, maybe your own expectations, and then you shrink again, right? So the shrinking sensation and opening sensation goes back and forth in the body, in your system, and it's kind of being like a tug of war, because it's like, I don't even know where to be. Am I in the middle? Am I in here? Am I over there? And it creates, the mind will get so activated in those moments, right? The mind gets activated, and then it's leading all the emotions in the body, and then maybe the sensation of not feeling safe that was like so tiny, then it's really big, and it begins to be really big and just explodes, right? When that sensation explodes, then you completely close it off. You completely close it off, and there is no way for the energy to really circulate around it, yeah? Because again, there's a part of you that doesn't feel safe to be the self. And when this happens, it doesn't only just close, remember that everything's interconnected, so it doesn't only just close your heart, you know? It begins to close the throat. If you really going into the shrinking mode, right? Or you're like holding like your knees towards your chest and you're just holding yourself, like you are being protected of yourself right here, and you're closing all those channels for anything that can come in, and the back of the channels are embracing that like a little cape, you know, like a little cape. And so then anything that is coming in into this direction in the front part of you to receive the energy and to come in and to let go is definitely not happening. It's definitely not happening. Not to the degree that it normally wants to happen, right? So in this space, you know, remember that the more that you relax, the more that you can open up, the more that you can receive, the more that you can be yourself. And of course, this comes like in the way of compassion, you know, having compassion for yourself, for whatever it is that you went through, for whatever it is that you're going through. Because if you don't have compassion, then, you know, you might constantly just be against yourself like this, over and over and over and over again. And what good does that do to your system? You know, it just creates more tension. And of course, we have to acknowledge that at moments it does happen. You might go through that. But then you can also have the awareness of like what is happening in my physical body that is a reflection of what's happening in my inner body. So then, of course, I'm sure that, when you feel vulnerable, it's not like you want to be like, oh, let me expand my heart and like, let me have my heart, like express everything that it wants to do. Of course, it will like shrink a little, but then catch yourself, because the more that you shrink, the less that you are playing, the more that you're playing small. The more that you're playing small, the more that you're giving in into the matrix, the more that you're giving in into the story of like that you're powerless. And we're not powerless. You're not powerless. So in those moments, just like remember, the more that you can express yourself, even against those fears, even against those really crazy emotions that pop up, the more that you can allow this to expand to the point that it's just such a powerful portal that there's no blockages, that you can travel in between spaces, that you can go into different dimensions, that you can tune in into different messages that might be coming through from your ancestors, from the highest version of yourself, and etc. Because again, it's just like this shrinks right here and everything in you contracts, like imagine like the shoulders, like when I do this, like it really just is not just about like the shoulders, but like what is happening in the neck, what is happening in the diaphragm, what is happening in the belly, and so then everything is like whoop, okay, we're so expensive and we can share so much and we can feel so much. It was like, let's not feel anything at all. Yeah, when you're doing that, you're creating again the separation between yourself, because you're saying again that perhaps you're not good enough to express yourself. Perhaps you're not good enough to be loved, not just by yourself, but by whoever is witnessing you. Yeah. And at the same time, saying you're not good enough to actually be expansive and be in your truth and experience whatever it is that you're meant to experience. That doesn't mean to punish yourself whenever you're actually feeling like this thing of like, oh shit, I just need to protect myself. It just is like, where is this protection coming from? And are you actually in danger, or are the wounds or the past experiences coming through and you're seeing through those lenses of wounds? Because this is something like really important, that it actually does happen. And I've been working with this too as well, as like one of my sisters, that she's a psychotherapist, was holding space for me, and it's like, okay, so when are the moments that you're actually seeing the truth? And when are the moments that the lenses of the wounds are coming in, and rather than being in your superhuman vision lenses, you're putting those lenses of the wounds, and then you're seeing everything that is in front of you with those eyes. So of course, if you're seeing everything with those eyes, then it will be like danger. Danger. I don't feel safe. Like I need to protect myself. I need to shrink, and to the point that you just feel so small, and at times you don't even know how to come out of that. Yeah, because again, the mind just went into like all these stories that got super activated, and what did you need to do? And then when you are in the space, it can be a little bit more challenging to like get yourself back up. Yeah, and so here is just kind of catching those moments. Watch the physical body, watch the structure of the physical body. How are you standing? How are you sitting? But especially when it's related to the heart space, when you feel really vulnerable, So for example, when I feel vulnerable and I'm sharing something, for sure, at times my shoulders do cave in, but at times I just want to be held. So I want to be held, and I want my heart to just like totally get that love and then that compassion and just being witness. So when it's happening that, then my heart can actually receive that. If it's being shrunken like this, it's kind of in a way saying like, no. I'm kind of saying yes, but at the same time I'm saying no. So in these moments, it's such a good opportunity to just say like, what do you actually need in those moments? And those needs that you have, are you willing to go through that space of actually receiving them? Are you willing to receive them? Or is just something that you're just like, whatever, So, and then do you think that you're worthy of receiving them? See, this is a really big question. Do you think that you're worthy of receiving those needs that you're asking? Yeah. So ask the heart. Yeah, see, ask the heart. And so now going into like this part of the awakening process, right? So like the cracking, the expansiveness. the arms are an expansion of the heart. The arms like just have so much power too, and just so much energy that they carry. And so the more that you're going through your process, and the body, perhaps your body's already cracking. I know that some of you were and are, so then there's again like the tension releasing, right? Because you really began to open up yourself. You began to really say, yes, I'm willing to go through this. Yes, I'm willing to receive. Yes, I'm willing to experience. I'm willing to open up. I'm willing to really even going against all odds, which might be in the forms of like fears, of like limited beliefs or stories or narratives that were created, that your system had created to protect yourself based on some kind of thing that happened before. So in those moments of like the awakening, when the energy has been rising up from the bottom to the top, and it begins to reach like the diaphragm, because remember the diaphragm is like a portal of awakening too, that it begins to really hold space for the heart to open up. So now as the energy is rising, the Kundalini energy is rising, it begins to reach the heart space, it begins to spread through the chest into the arms. Yeah. And so what happens in here is the energy begins to, in a way, collect and untangle any of the stock energy that is there. And so the stock energy, meaning, the moments that you felt very vulnerable and you shrunk, the moments that you didn't feel good enough, the moments that like literally all these traumas around the heart space of being loved, of being even witness, of being like held in moments that you needed to be held. So that as this is happening, of course, like there's moments where like the diaphragm begins to open up even more, like the chest, the vertebrae are like going back into their own space and stuff. And so here, it begins to open up more, the clavicle, and of course the arms. The arms. So then you can be in the space of fully receiving, willing to receive. And it doesn't even matter if any other thing comes up to the surface in the way that you have to really integrate them, but you're just like surrendering to that, because you know that those stories were not you. You know that what is happening in your awakening process is you guiding yourself to going back into the balanced state. Going back into the homeostasis, to just be with you and experience you. And of course, the more open you are and the more willing you are to see things from a different perspective, right? Not with the eyes of the wounds again, but with the eyes of, in a way, at times just the human, the human eye, and going from the human eye into the superhuman. And so then you can actually have more compassion for yourself, for being the human that you have been, for being the human that you are, so then you can have more ability and expansiveness in the heart space. And now as this happens, then your heart begins to lead. So think about when you're actually in the neutral position and your chest is so open and your heart is like whoop, and then think about the moments that you shrink it, right? So you see, even the motion of shrinking, the heart goes back. The heart goes back, the head goes forward, which means that again, this right here, your mind is, in a way being in the front, like running the show rather than the heart. See what I mean? When you're shrinking, the heart goes back, the head goes forward. So the mind is having, in a way, like really being the protagonist of this, saying to the heart, go back, because now it's my turn to really do all this thing. And so take the opportunity. At times, perhaps the mind needs to be right there, especially if you feel that it's like actual danger happening. But at times, it really doesn't, At times, it could just be balance. Or at times, like, the heart can lead. So just pay attention to those kinds of things, because those are really important. Those are really important, especially as you're moving through the awakening process, especially as you are being more expansive and the body is readjusting, because this does happen, you guys. This does happen. There's so much intelligence, again, in your bone structure and everything in you, that when the body has the moment, when you are resting, and it actually has the opportunity to heal itself because it has the ability, then it does it. The bones go back to the the neutral position, and then you begin to remember more things over and over and over again. And this is happening, this happens through the awakening process. This cracking thing has been happening for me for years. And then I was working with an amazing woman last year, and then cracking began to happen through the process that we were going through. Because again, it's the remembrance. The cracking is really is releasing of the tension of your system. So then the energy can flow. So then you can be in balance. So then you can be more in tune with that which you really are. And then lead your life in a more compassionate way, So what I'm hearing right now is that even though at times there are those moments there you might forget to have compassion for yourself, that doesn't mean to put yourself around in the corner and just punish yourself over and over and over again, because that doesn't really do much for you, yeah? But just again, acknowledging, perhaps you didn't really do a quote unquote good job there, but had you not done that, you wouldn't have been aware of that condition. So it all kind of works out really well for you if you allow it to do so, allow it to do so, yeah? So, oh yes, so I did a podcast with Rome. I was his guest, and this Thursday, the podcast will come live. So check it out. I'll definitely post about it too. So yeah. So in this moment, at times this awakening can feel like it's a never-ending suffering process. But again, with which eyes are you looking at that? Are you looking at that with the wounded eyes, with the wounded glasses? Are you looking at that based on the experience of that what is happening currently in your life might feel so intense? Or are you seeing that with a superhuman eye? With the eye that says we really need this intensity in order to see a different part of ourselves. Or we need this intensity to let go of this tightness, because otherwise you wouldn't have been paying attention. So remember that life is constantly tapping you in the back and the shoulder, saying hey, pay attention to this, in a very gentle way, right? But at times we can be so busy. At times we can be so busy that we're not even paying attention to the subtle messages of life until it gets a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger until it just becomes this massive thing. And then you feel you're going through chaos, you're feeling that you're going through a dark night of the soul, and then and then of course rebirth happens. But it doesn't mean the dark night of the souls are bad, They're definitely challenging, and they're challenging for a reason. But I definitely believe, based on my own experience and as well as guiding others through this process, that it doesn't really need to be such a suffering part of your life. It really doesn't. And so it's more about the trusting, the surrendering to this part. And let's really talk about this for a little bit, yeah? Because there's times where it says how do I even surrender? How do I even trust, And what does that actually mean to you, to trust and to surrender to something, It's just going with the flow, okay? It's going with the same current. Because at times, most of the time, whenever something challenging is happening, the human condition is this shouldn't be happening, or why is this happening, And so rather than being like that, because that creates more tension, It's kind of like saying, if you have a child, and your child is like mom or dad, come play with me, and you're why are you here? Why are you here asking me this? And how does this child gonna feel? It's probably gonna feel really hurt, right? So it's very similar to this part of yourself that has been tapping you on the back, saying pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. Hey, I'm here. I'm trying to deliver a message for you. Please pay attention. Until you just couldn't, whether it was hearing it properly or you just didn't want to go into it, that it just had to create some kind of tension for you to pay attention, right? And of course, most of the time when that happens, it's you don't even want to look at that, because that was already really intense. And then you're just why? Why do you have to do this right now? Why can't you come gently? When the other part of yourself is I was coming gently, but you were not paying attention and you were not slowing down. So I had to just go boom, in order for you to actually pay attention to what I was saying, right? But of course, because you feel hurt at the moment, then you're just gonna see with the eyes of your wounds, right? When this part of yourself is actually asking you to see it with compassionate eyes, okay? So when you begin to see it with compassionate eyes, you begin to flow, okay? Because you're not seeing this as a punishment. You're not seeing this as a punishment. You're seeing this as a gift. You're seeing this as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to come apart, yeah? And to really rediscover you, a different part of yourself that maybe was asleep and maybe it's coming through, or maybe it has always been awake and you just didn't really acknowledge it. So this is what it means to me, for example, to trust and surrender. It's just to be present with what is happening, whether I actually enjoy whatever is happening or not. Just being with it and acknowledge it and being grateful, you know, like especially in those moments that are really shitty, you guys, just being like, thank you for being shitty. No joke. Like, thank you for being shitty. Thank you for all this intensity. At this time, perhaps I can't really see why I need to go through this, but then I know I will later. Yeah. So then it opens that even just by saying those kind of words, and it softens up whatever is happening in your system. And then you can be just like, yeah, okay. So then that tension of like, why are you here? Why did you show up this way? Like, I don't want to talk to you right now. It's just more like, okay, well, thanks for yelling. Thanks for showing up this way. I might not really understand, you know, but then you're not pushing it away, okay? So then the two energies of like the self that is experiencing that and the other part of yourself, rather than going like this and punishing each other, are kind of working like, okay, can we move closer? You know, can we come like maybe one step closer? Can we try to have a conversation right here? And so they begin to move, okay? You begin to move your current self with whatever emotions that you're having, because this is not invalidating anything that's going on through you, okay? And then the other one that is actually bringing the gifts to you, you know, is just like, okay. Until, you know, you might slow down in the way of like not saying that, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. Why is this happening? You're just like, okay, I think I can really look at you right now. And what is it that I'm seeing? You know? And then when you surrender into that, you know, when you ease up those emotions and the tension in you, because also the physical body tenses up. It is like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. You know, and again, what happens when you tense up? See, like the shoulders go up, you close your throat, the heart goes back, the head goes forward. So it's the same thing about protection, you know, the same thing about protection. So here is the openness, being willing to see those parts of yourself, to open up more within you, okay? So again, like, you might have your own definition of trusting, you might have your own definition of like flowing, you know? Like I said, for me, is being in the present moment and not with stories, you know? Because at times the mind will begin to say like, or remember things on the past, right? So then you are not present. You're not present because part of you is in the past. Part of you is still in those wounds of whatever happened. You're not present in whatever it is that this part of you is saying. And when you're present and then you are in a way that detached from all those conditions in the head, then you can actually witness it. You can actually witness it. And you can actually integrate it, you know? Integration, embodying. And then there's no tension, and then there's no more like heaviness, you know, and then the shoulders can relax, and then the heart can go back into shining, and the mind is not like leading the show anymore, but it's in balance with the heart, you know. The two of them are working in unity. It's something so powerful, you guys. It's something so powerful to remember that everything is happening for the greatest good of you, you know? Everything, including the moments that are super challenging. When they first explode, because most of the time it happens in that explosion, these challenging moments, yeah? When they first explode, of course, it might feel like, you can't really see a different way out, and then you can really see why is this a blessing and all these kinds of things. But in that particular moment is so important for you to be grateful for that messiness, for that explosion. Because again, that will bring you back into the present moment. Because then you're not in the wounded part. You're not wearing the wounded eyes or the wounded glasses. You are in this present moment right here, right now, witnessing whatever it is that is happening. Because all the changes in you happen in this particular moment in time. Not like in the past, not when you're creating stories in the head, just right here, right now. And as you are going through the process, you can have more compassion for yourself. You can open up more of the heart. You can surrender to the experience. You can honor yourself, have compassion for whatever it is that you're going through. Have compassion for whatever it is that you went through, and just really, really, really love yourself, Because we come here without really a manual, It's not like somebody hands us a manual and say this is how you get to be a good human, We gotta learn, especially if we come from a family that have so many conditions, and then you had to maneuver through that space and then kind of go into a different route to be into your own self and understand what that is and what it means for you. It can be really challenging, but again, remembering that everything that you have been carrying and everything that you have been going through, is not to punish you, okay? It's not to punish you. You've been going through all this for a particular reason. And I truly believe that those reasons is to reactivate and remember your gifts and remember what you came here to do. And remember that there's a different way of living that is definitely more magical than the way that you were in before, the way of punishing yourself, the way of going against yourself, the way of pushing yourself to the limits that you just couldn't do anything anymore. And it just created disease and the body was tired and whatever it was, okay? So remember that, because it's really important. It's really, really important. And yeah. And there's those, you have wings. You have wings. And you can remember those wings. And you can expand those wings. Your wings can actually have it's kind of like a radio mechanism, to tune in many different things. Kind of like your third eye in a way, but they just expand so much out. And this is where goodness also comes in the form of true love, true unconditional love, true compassion, seeing the other person as the divine being there it is, that is also remembering, not just you, so through that expansion of the chest cavity and the heart, and just really being open to experience whatever it is that you're experiencing, including especially those moments that are really difficult, then your wings again go. It's really beautiful, this journey, honestly. So honor yourself where you are, and remember to have compassion for you. Remember to have compassion for you, and that in gratitude will just be a game changer in this journey, especially if you have been going through a rough patch the past week or so, or maybe the past month, who knows. Yeah. All right. Beautiful. So I don't think I'm going to be doing a live video on Thursday, because I'm actually meeting my best friends in Missouri, which is if you don't live in the States, is a state right next to Kansas where I am, and they are driving from Las Vegas, which is on the other side of the country, to just pick up this trail. Anyway, long story short, we're gonna go camping, so I'll probably be driving there really early in the morning. I don't really think I will have any internet there. If there is, I might pop in and just say hi, but I might be driving at that time, so that's not a really good idea. Okay, so but I'll keep you posted, and I'm sending you so many blessings, truly so many blessings, because the more that you continue to remember, the more that we all continue to remember, and the more that we can all support each other, the more that others can support themselves and the rest of us. And it's very important to do this. Okay. Sending you so much love, many blessings, and any questions you might have about your awakening process, just send me a message, okay? Jeffies.